Hi, my name is Brady Licht and I'm a Thai learning specialist. In this video, I'm going to explain how to use our pathway builder. So pathways are something that we're really passionate about at Thai. And our pathways are kind of a tricky idea to kind of wrap your head around at first. So real quickly, just a quick refresher on what a pathway is. Well, a Thai adult professional learning pathway is a sequenced collection of multimodal learning experiences that leads to transformational and fundamental changes in practice. Learning along the continuum is varied, offers choice, and engages adults in extended and meaningful learning experiences that lead to professional growth. So, that's just a quick reminder. The main goal of this video is going to be showing you how to use our pathway builder. Now, there's plenty of ways to show kind of the ideas about how to build a pathway and how to encapsulate that. This document is just one of those tools that you can use. Now, this document first starts off by having you identify who the audience of the pathway is. So this may be a single group of teachers in a specific school district. It may be much broader than that, and there may be multiple types of audiences all participating in the same pathway. You may have a handful of administrators in one area, along with a handful of instructional coaches, some learning facilitators at different levels. So really, it can be pretty broad about who is involved in this pathway, and that's one of the first things we want to identify. So who is that audience? Well, we can list that right there for number one. Number two, it says at the end of this pathway, participants will. Now, we obviously want to encourage thinking about competencies, but you can also think about them as outcomes, goals of the entire pathway, whatever is really going to help solidify this idea for you. Now, when the pathway is actually being constructed, those things can then be broken down into more specific competencies, outcomes, success criteria, and other metrics to kind of measure the overall success and progress towards those goals. Right now, we just want to list maybe a handful of short phrases that describe what that goal is that they'll be able to do as a result of this pathway, or something about their understanding that will have changed or transformed as a result of this learning. The third item is we're going to identify what the pathway might include. Again, this is just a rough idea for the pathways. And so there's three options listed. Obviously, you might have more components than that. You might have fewer. You might only have a one or two. It's, again, just something to start with. Now, all of these use drop downs, which is really cool because then you can see all the different options we have available right from the jump. So it says the pathway might include, we could start off by clicking and saying, well, it might include a book study. And then we can define that a little bit further, saying it's a book study that integrates some prior knowledge, that this book study is going to have very clear success criteria, and this book study is going to have a lot of opportunities for reflection. In fact, we might even have a second book study that uses some different strategies in the same thing. This pathway might include other things too, such as a microlearning component, and it might even conclude at the Thai conference or some type of in-person workshop. Again, this tool is just to help you kind of build these ideas out. The last item on this pathway builder that's kind of preset for you, again, you can add more to it if you need to, just to kind of help communicate what your pathway is and kind of what the idea for it is at the moment. But the last item that we have kind of preset there is this pathway building graphic. Now, all you have to do to use it is you simply double click on that graphic right there. It's a Google drawing, and so it pops open like this. And then in this Google drawing, you have a pathway start and a pathway conclusion. Now you can move those around if you want to have multiple conclusions or multiple starting points, that's perfectly okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to take those components on the right hand or left hand side. I don't know if the image is flipped for you, but we're going to take those components and simply drag and drop them in to kind of brainstorm the structure of this pathway. So maybe we said, again, we want to start off or have some book study components. Maybe that means a book study early on, and maybe we want a different book study for another path where it wraps it up. Maybe this is a path where half the group are going to be administrators, half are going to be educators, or maybe it's a situation where we have a kind of an advanced path for educators who feel like they really know a lot about a topic, and then kind of a more introductory path for educators who don't know as much about the topic. So we could pull in two different book studies in there. We might pull in a little bit of coaching, obviously not a football coaching. Football is just a handy graphic to kind of summarize coaching or to remember it. And maybe again, we want to have that in-person workshop that both groups come back together at the end. And maybe the group that starts off with that book study, well, Maybe they do their coaching later, or maybe they don't do it all. Maybe in addition to the book study, they do some asynchronous online learning, right? Kind of like one of our single credit graduate courses, if you're aware of those, that a lot of teachers take for professional development and for renewal of their certificates. Now, the last thing we can do is we can obviously drop in more shapes. We can do whatever we need here to kind of communicate that pathway. I've really found it to be powerful to simply click on the select line tool, drop that down, and click on scribble, because scribble is going to allow you to draw right in there and kind of get those ideas on paper a little bit quicker. So as we talked about, maybe this pathway we're coming up with, it starts off one, it branches into two different routes. So doing a book study, an asynchronous course, and then an in-person workshop. Maybe there's also another path that begins with simply the pathway starting, hopping straight into some coaching, doing some book study, and wrapping up. And maybe we even find that because the audience is going to be so broad, there's a couple specialty type audiences that they want something a little bit different. So we might even have another option where if they do the coaching and the book study, maybe we invite those people in to talk at that professional or in-person workshop first, wrap it up, and then hop down to the pathway. Again, we can do all sorts of squiggles there to communicate the idea. The whole goal of this pathway builder is simply to capture what our ideas are for this professional learning pathway for adults right off of the jump. So that was a short introduction to this pathway building tool. If it looks a little bit different when you're going through with it, that's okay. Those are just some tweaks to improve it that we've received based on feedback, of course. So if you have any questions, reach out to a TIE representative, and we hope this helps you have a better idea of what your pathway could look like. Thanks.